Howdy everybody, it's Amy here from Amy's Sparkly Diamond Painting, and I have another product review for you. I've kind of had a little bit of a backup of product reviews, so I'm trying to catch up this weekend. And this is a cross-stitch product review. For those of you that are not at all interested in cross-stitch, I'll let you know that that's what this is. And this is from the company Sevengreat, and all they do is cross-stitch at this point, I believe. I don't think I've checked in the last couple of weeks. I did place an order somewhat recently, but I think all they do still is cross-stitch. But Sevengreat is a company that I've been purchasing from myself for a while. Like I said, I got an order on its way to me because I love how many premium cross-stitch kits that they offer, and they have some really good sales. So I will put my discount code below, but we will check out what we have. I did have to order it or open it to peek inside, but this did come in the really nice thick bubble mailer, so very well protected, even though cross stitch typically doesn't need that. But I did slice it. It was folded over here, so very good packaging. And I believe I have 2 cross stitches in here. Yes, so I have one more premium one here. This is a spring brand, which I love, and you can already get a hint here of what we're looking at with some pastel colors. That's a little bit smaller one, but I thought, because I want to keep trying with these cheaper ones to see how they go, because I have noticed improvements over time. So I picked out one of these more budget-friendly ones, and I've been using these to practice various methods of stitching. So this one we can see has a lot of background already, but let's get started and see what we have here. These typically don't have a picture on the front to show you, so I'm just going to open this and find the picture on the pattern. So these do come in these plastic bags, so you do need to get your own project bag or some other method to store them, because those plastic bags usually don't hold up over time. This one has white for a lot of background, but we'll talk about that in a minute, because you don't really have to stitch the background if it's white. So what we have here is an adorable gnome on a turtle. How could I resist that? So the gnome has all these decorations in his hat, and he's riding a turtle. He or she, can't really tell on that one, although the beard probably would make more sense that it's a he. So we've got a gnome on a turtle. Isn't that cute? Very, very oceany, very much me in lots of ways. Here, I'm going to fold it over so you don't see too much of the pattern, but with stamped cross stitch, that's just impossible to avoid. So there was something I was going to say. Well, we'll just go forward and see if I remember. So this one has 36 different colors here, and it is printed on the shiny paper here that doesn't tear very easily. You can if you really wanted to, but it takes some work there to tear it. But this is not waterproof, so if you get this wet, you will lose the pattern. So you don't want to get these wet. And the printing on this looks a little bit small. This is, I believe, a Yishu brand there by the Y. It is 11 count, and I was looking for the size. I guess we'll know what we know. Here we go. So the size here is 44 wide by 44 high centimeters, a little bit smaller than the spring brand gnomes, and 168 by 168 stitches. Although, what I was talking about, we'll go ahead and take a look at the canvas here, is that since this is on white fabric, you don't have to stitch that white background if you don't want to. What you can do is stitch the gnome, and when you wash it, all this yellow ink will go away. So I think that's how I'm going to handle this one. This looks about pillow sized. So we don't have, just like some of the other ones that I review for these budget friendlies, you don't have a whole lot of edge here. Maybe about an inch there where this is. But if you look to the end of the stitching here, it's just a little bit wider, but this one All of these that are the budget-friendly brands really don't give you a whole lot of edge there, so that's why I like to turn them into pillows. We do have a little bit more of an edge on this side because the turtle doesn't stop till there, so we've got a couple inches on that side. But you can sew fabric around them and do all sorts of things if you don't want to try to put them in a frame. And usually for the gnomes, I wouldn't try to frame them. So first off, you can notice a lot of confetti, which is why I say I get these to practice some different stitching techniques, because I do work on some full coverage cross stitches from Heaven and Earth Designs and some of the really complex stitching. So these confetti ones are just like that, but these are a lot easier to test out things because this is 11 count, whereas some of those high confetti cross stitches, counted cross stitches, they're done on 25 count. So this is more than double the square size. So it makes it much easier to see, but also with the printing on there, you're not having to do all the counting and all that stuff. So you can try out different techniques. And when I say different techniques, I'm talking parking, typewriter method where you work across the rows, diagonal method, you can do that, or the parking with the rows, or maybe 4 squares. There's all sorts of, I think the last one I found today was called the snake method, where you work back and forth across a 4x4 group. So this just gives you a way to practice all those different techniques, which makes me think that we need a tutorial video on some of those, that we could use something like this, because it is definitely complicated. So lots and lots of confetti. It's almost difficult to make out all the different little pieces of shells and stuff with all that confetti, but I do see the starfish coming through here. So we have a little bit easier time there with the face because they're white. So that's why it looks like he's a ghost there without any eyes, but they are done in white, and some of the beard is white with some other colors. So this will be much more relaxing stitching area there in the face, much easier to do. And then we go back. The turtle is kind of a mix, so that light blue color throughout is pretty easy to pick out, but there is definitely some confetti in his head. So this is a pretty good mix, but definitely more confetti heavy than the other ones. But there's not a whole lot of dark saturated colors. As you can see, nothing bleeding through to the back. So a lot of these older ones, which this isn't an older one, a lot of the older ones I should say, have a lot of red in them, but I'm not seeing much red in this one. There is a little bit, but it's nothing really difficult to see. So I think the printing, even on these budget-friendly ones, is getting much better. The one piece of advice, though, I would give is a little bit more of a border. This really is a pretty tight border here on this side, so a little bit, couple more centimeters would make doing various ways of finishing this a lot easier. It is serged here. It's not serged on, yeah, I guess it is. Okay, it was just hard to see against that blue. So it is serged, so it's not going to fray. And the key is pretty simple to read here. It's nice and large. Some of the older ones I've run into have really small key that's hard to read. But that looks very clear, very easy to see, and I'm not seeing symbols that are difficult to tell apart. That's been another problem with older ones in the past. But I'm looking through here. Of course, this is just a first look, but I'm not seeing any symbols that are difficult to tell apart, which makes it easier, means you don't even need this at all unless something happens, like you drop water on this or something. So we do have the toolkit that comes with the new needle holder, if you like those. So we have a ring thimble. I don't really use those, but I need to find a use for them because I am collecting several of those. We have the needle threader here, which works for larger as well as smaller needles. It's a little hook. You put the little hook through the eye of the needle, put your thread on, and pull it through. Really, really easy to use. And because this is 11 count, we should have the bigger needles here, and we have several of them. Usually comes with about 4 or 5, so yes, we've got 4 needles with this one, more than enough. So that's our toolkit. And now let's look at the thread. But we have floss drops that are held together with a binder here. And I'll go ahead and take it apart so we can look at all the colors, because I do want to take a photo of this for their website as well. So we have 3 different sets of 3 here of the 3865, which is a white for the background. But I still need some white in this for his face and some of the highlights in there, but I'm not going to stitch the background. So lots of extra floss here to use for other projects. And it is the really soft, nice, I believe it's called CXC brand. It's a little bit thicker, I found, than DMC. I've been working with both threads lately with a couple of the full coverage counted kits that I've been working on, and I do like the softness and the coverage of these budget friendly. Okay, sorry about that. We had a delivery and my dogs were going nuts. So let's take a look at the colors here. 939, that dark blue. These again match the same numbers as our diamond painting numbers. So 747, we have 814, a nice maroon. So these are not pastel or rainbow. These are more jewel tones, maybe. 820 is another blue there, 823. So lots of dark blues with this one. I'll just go through the rest this way, save a little time because we got a second cross stitch to go through. So 931, 3047 is a yellow. And then we have some pastel or light blues and ocean blue colors. Those are probably in the turtle. A little bit of pink and red there for some highlighting. But lots of turquoise and blue colors. There's a green. Even a bright red there, 817. More blues. Kind of a purplish blue shades throughout there. There's a purple. And little bits of a lot of these colors here. So even though it's got 36 colors, it looks like some of these colors aren't used very much because there's not very many on a lot of these floss drops. Just a few strands of some of these colors here. So I do like having leftovers though. This one's only just a couple there. And some more reds and oranges and a really dark purple. So I do like having leftovers of these because I do use them for my other patterns, and they're all nicely sorted on these floss drops, which makes it really easy to store them and pick them out. So lots of bright colors here. I love the rainbow effect on these, and then lots and lots of extra white. So that is our budget friendly cross stitch kit. I do have the binder here to hold them together, but I will be taking a picture here. So this is Yishu 11 count, 44 by 44 centimeters. This is our gnome on the turtle. Pretty cute. Okay, so let's take a look at the second one that we have for you guys. I'll move this one off to the side here, and we have a Spring brand. So Spring is one of my favorite brands of stamp cross stitch kits, and you can tell by the plant here on the packaging that this is a 14 count, which means we have the Egyptian cotton floss, which is a little bit thinner, I think, than the other stuff, but it's just slightly different way to work on it. A lot of people really like it. I could go either way. I kind of like the soft fuzziness and the coverage of the Ecology brand, or the Ecology cotton floss as they call it in the kits, the CXC. But this is a little bit better quality, so it doesn't break quite as much, and it doesn't fuzz quite as much because it's treated. So this is the package. Let's look at the design. There we go. Oh, and I should talk about prices because I did write them down. So the goblin on the turtle is $12.58. And this one I will have to look up. I have a question mark there by this one. So it may have temporarily disappeared from their website on the day I looked. But usually these are available on several different places. But this again is Sevengreat. So we got a nice round one with some pretty, almost winter-like florals. I wouldn't call it spring, even though there's some pastels in there, because the background just makes me think of winter vibes. So this is the 14 count here. And we have this nice little project envelope that these come in, which I do like as well. Don't need a project bag. And we have our floss here, a couple different things of floss. We have our fabric that is protected in a plastic bag. We have our instructions here if you're new to cross stitch. And then we have our pattern. And the pattern is separate. Sometimes they come on the back of these, and it looks like this one, nope, the pattern is indeed separate. So we can look at this side. There's not a whole lot of printing on this side. We can see there are 38 different colors on this one. So we see what they show is the symbol that's going to show up on the fabric here on this side, and then kind of a color shade on this side. And it looks like, oh good, this is another one. This has also been a newer trend where the symbol on the fabric is the same as the symbol on the chart. So I was looking around going, where's the chart symbol? Well, you don't need them because they're the same. So that's always nice to see. So you can tell by those dark triangles and stuff there that what you see is what's going to be on the fabric. So no translation back and forth between different symbols. So you don't really need the chart unless something is going wrong with your fabric, or you can't read it, or you spill something on it, something like that. So you typically don't need these, but they are good to have just in case. So we have 38 different colors here, and we have several different colors of backstitch, 6 different colors of backstitch. Oh, and we also have mixed stitches here, which add to our colors. So there are 8 different mixed stitches, which means you use one strand of each of 2 different colors, because this is 14 count. So 14 count uses only 2 strands, so you either use 2 strands of one color, or for these blended ones you use 1 strand of each color. So I don't see any half stitches, I don't see any French knots, just cross stitch and back stitch. And there is indeed, I will show a part here, there is indeed a fair amount of back stitching on this one. So you've got the details there in the berries as well as the flower to make them stand out. And we can kind of see that here, looking a little bit more detail at the picture there. So definitely lots of back stitch, which really adds to the design though. It makes it stand out a little bit more. So let's take a look at our fabric here. We can figure out where the opening is. So it is protected in this plastic. So if it goes to a humid area, or if you live in a humid area, you might want to keep it in that plastic till you're ready to work on it. We will unfold this here. And this one is definitely printed in more saturated colors, which isn't real typical for spring brand. So a lot of solid purples here, but the blue is an X. It just looks really dark and solid on the green there, but I can still see everything on it. I think it's very clear to differentiate one color from the next, and because this one does have all those different colors, it does have to have a lot of symbols to make up for that there. And then here's our blended stitches over here. So the printing for the key is nice and large. We have the typical tag here. It is serged all the way around, and definitely more border on this one, as you can tell. So definitely another sign of the premium ones is that you have more room here on the edges. So once you wash all of this will come off, and even the colors in the middle, and you'll be left with a nice big border on this one, which will help for framing, because a round one can be a little bit trickier to come up with a way to finish it. It takes a little more creativity to come up with ideas to finish a round one. And they do show theirs in a round frame, but those are sometimes hard to find. You can sometimes find them at thrift stores or garage sales in the form of mirrors sometimes. So we do have the stitching directions here, as well as some information down here, probably about blended stitches. You can use Google Translate to help But this is 122 by 126 high stitches, so it's just slightly bigger that way than that way. And looking for a size in centimeters, but there you can kind of see what the size would be. 35 by 35 centimeters, so not too big, as you can tell there, but really, really nice printing. So that's definitely where you can see some of the difference with some of the more premium stamped cross-stitch kits, is the really clear printing and the borders. So let's take a look at all these colors. Wow, first look at all those pinks and yellows and blues. Lots of really light colors here. So we do have our needles attached to the card. There is no toolkit with the spring brand, but we do have the 2 floss cards, and they don't put the DMC numbers on them. They just put the 1 through whatever that goes with your chart here in the order that they are on there, which is usually DMC order for these kits. So yes, we have the purples here at the start, some pinks and yellows, lots and lots of these pale blue colors, and you can see big hanks of these too, so those will be throughout. And then some light pinks, some darker blues here, some darker pinks. I think the shading on this one is going to be really nice, just looking at how all these colors kind of in groups blend together. There's 2 more yellows and more of that light blue, and this I bet is a backstitch color, this really dark color there. So what do you think of that one? I think this looks like a stitch that's not too difficult, because compared to the other one, there's not as much of what I would call confetti in this one. I think this is probably a little bit more of a relaxing stitch, because you got large areas of the same color. You can just start a thread and keep going till it's used up. So you can see even throughout here, it's not really what I would call confetti there, because you have enough where you can keep a thread going until you use it up. And that's a little bit different than the other one, which I will bring back here, which has just a few stitches of one color before it switches to another color. This one is a little more challenging to do, but there are techniques to get that done. So don't be afraid of the confetti. There are ways to do it. It just takes a little bit longer. So thank you to Sevengreat for providing these awesome cross stitches. We have our spring brand here with the beautiful winter flowers, and then we have our gnome on the turtle, which is a really good practice for doing confetti. So hopefully you saw something here. I recommend you check out the Sevengreat website, because they do have a lot of discounts. They do discount codes, and I have a code that I will put below, but sometimes the sales that they have are even better. So use the code that works the best for you. I will put links to these below, but I do have to double check on this one, because at the time I couldn't find it. So they may have temporarily sold out, but it's not too late to order from overseas, and it usually takes about 2 to 2.5 weeks right now. It was taking a little bit longer around Christmas into January, late January for Chinese New Year, but all that is over. So it only takes a couple weeks typically to get these in. And so a lot of fun here. I may turn this one into a tutorial. This looks like a really good one with all the confetti up there to show you different ways to deal with those kind of stitches. So thank you for watching. Thank you to Sevengreat for providing these items for me, and I will keep you up to date on these projects. So thank you for watching.